everyone. Welcome. This is Joyce Edison, your host at the Workplace Wellness Forum. I'm so excited that you're here today. And my guest today is Jonathan Deyoe. And Jonathan is going to introduce himself, tell us a little bit about what he does, and we're going to get into some interesting conversation today. Jonathan, welcome.
Thanks, Joyce. It's been a fun time getting to know you and your group, and I look forward to the summit coming up very soon.
Yes, it is exciting times. So what do you do? Tell us a little bit about the work you do on a daily basis.
Sure. So there's a couple things that we do on a daily basis, and my company does three things. The first thing we do, and where most of what we do, is specifically around financial planning and wealth management for families. But as part of that, maybe about 15 years ago, I had a couple clients who said, "Hey, I have businesses and we have this 401k and we want to do something extra for our employees. And so what do you think?" And I said, "Well, let's talk about financial wellness." And so we've been teaching financial wellness classes in companies for over a decade. And we're actually in the process of setting up courses, digital courses, so that the one complaint we've ever had is, "Hey, it's only offered, this class is only offered once a year at this time. And if I can't make it, I don't get to do the course." So we're actually building some digital courses for that end. But I've been in the financial services world for about 25 years. And the thing that I love the most is that educating folks and teaching people that the stuff that you read in Wall Street News and in Forbes magazine is not the stuff you need to know to actually advance your own personal financial wellness. The stuff you need to know is financial planning and just basic financial education, and that gets you there. So that's where we start, and that's what I love to do.
That sounds amazing. So what are one or two tips that you think you've noticed over the decade that when you share with people, employees in the workplace, they're like, I get it.
I think the most important, there's two tips, right, that are really critical, and these actually align with two, and these are general, two sections in the book that I wrote. I wrote a book, it was published in 2017, called Mindful Money. The first section of the book is all about the illusions that both Wall Street, financial product manufacturers, financial press, and frankly, our own brains make us feel a certain way about things. And it's usually the way we feel about things that makes us make mistakes. It's the feeling that overrules our rational selves that actually hurts our finances long term. So that's the first thing, is that there's a whole bunch of illusions that you can just ignore as noise once you know how to recognize them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, we know this, and religious people and philosophers and therapists and psychologists and academics have been studying this stuff for years and years and years, going on decades now. In fact, philosophers and religious folks have been talking about this for thousands of years. That we know what makes us happy. We know what makes us happy. We know that relationships, health, accountability to our own hopes and dreams, meaningful lives, optimism, gratitude, generosity, these are the things that make us happy. Not a bigger house or a faster car, but we always chase the bigger house, faster car. And we give up our relationships, we give up our health to get those things. So really understanding what's important to us should be the foundation of any financial planning enterprise.
So true. I say amen. So critical in everything. At the summit this year, we're going to be talking about our key focus is how do we address workplace wellness in a time like now. We're seeing the biggest racial unrest happening. We're in a global health pandemic. We are in the biggest economic downturn that we face in our lifetime. We've seen everything is stopped. The world is completely turned over. How do we maintain wellness at work? What does that look like? How do we come back to the core? And at the ends of that, we have the biggest mental health crisis on the planet. Because I've been teaching this for probably more than a decade. The World Health Organization had predicted that mental health will be one of the biggest crises by 2020. And here we are, right? It said it was going to be the highest cause of workplace disability, to use the exact words. And here we are in 2020, and they had not predicted economic global warming, global health pandemic added to already very vulnerable mental health. And I love what you teach, the work you do on financial wellness, because the model we use at Interpersonal Wellness Services is a 9-dimensional model, and financial wellness is one of the arm. And often people say, well, are you a financial planner? I'm like, no, we're not. We're teaching the intricacies, the mindset, right? And so the summit is going to be talking about how do we create wellness mindset and competencies for people to work, live, and play well. So how are you going to curve that into your deliverable? And I think you're already on track, but tell us a little bit more.
So the easiest way to really talk about this is tell you a little bit of my own story. So about, let's see, my son is 15, so he was 2 at the time, so 13 years ago. 13 years ago, I tipped the scales at about 285 pounds. I couldn't touch my own toes. I had no stamina. I had no strength. I was drinking way too much. I was eating way too much pizza and ice cream. I was very stressed. I was working way more hours than I needed to work. And I literally, my first step into financial wellness, oh, by the way, a side that I don't always like to share is that I had probably a $150,000 lifestyle on a $90,000 income, right? So I was using debt to finance my life at the same time. So I'm not immune to that. I'm in the financial services world. I think we all do this. Mm-hmm. But 13 years ago, I was going skiing, and my dad and my folks were up there. I had a little 2-year-old boy who was up there. His name is Eli. He's my, pride and joy. And I'm going to leave him to go skiing with my wife, and I realized I forgot my ski pants. So I go, oh no, what am I going to do, right? My dad goes, oh, try mine on. My dad's a big guy. And I'm like, your ski pants won't fit me. Guess what? They were tight. So that was a wake-up call for me to make health my first priority. And so today, and I did it, I lost a bunch of weight. I got more flexible. I got stronger. I can run now. And it took me 4 years to get myself together. But today in COVID, one of the things the conversations I've had with people that are going to work, or maybe they're working, but they're staying home, is what are you doing for your own health right now? Mm-hmm. Walk in the forest, do some exercise, meditate, get your mind right, get your own physical body right. Your health will be better. Your finances will be better. You'll have more confidence. People will respond more positively to you. All things start with just getting your own health in place. And I know this because that is precisely my own experience. Everything shifted. Everything. Maybe it's because my brain shifted, but everything shifted when I took care of my health, right? Took care of my health, everything followed.
Yes. That is so important because everything is interconnected. Our wellness is interconnected. So when organizations call and they say, oh, we have low engagement, low productivity, I'm like, a workshop is not the problem. The employee is not the problem. We need to go back and look at how are we connecting, how are we gelling, and what kind of conversation are we having. Like one of the dimensions of wellness we look at, and I think we're probably unique in that, is the interpersonal. It has so much to do with that relationship. And that came back to just what you said. It was your dad's, the parents, your son, your wife. Everything comes back to how because humans are social beings. And when we're interpersonally well, there is a vibrancy that we exude.
It almost has to start with our own confidence, though.
Yeah,
it almost has to start with, if I feel good about myself, I show up in my relationships that much better, right? Yeah. That is the linchpin. That's the key. It's so important.
Yes, absolutely. And it's the same way when the employee shows up to work who is unwell. It doesn't matter what your engagement plan is. It doesn't matter what your organization culture is. It doesn't matter all this. If your employee is showing up unwell, what they're going to be needing is they're going to be bringing a social vibration that is very low. So they're going to be needing to feed on the vibration of others in the organization for them to just make it through the day. They don't have anything to give, to add to the wellness. So if you're not taking care of your employees and providing them with the support, the attention, the morale boost, the engagement, then they are going to show up unwell, they're going to leave unwell and come back unwell consistently. And what happens, we teach that social vibration is that, eventually it's going to be where they are a social, emotional, they are a wellness deficit. There's
Mhm.
nothing. So it's like not having, so being overdrawn, they can be overdrawn in their wellness in any of the nine dimensions of life. And I think it's so, so instrumental when you teach that. I like the analogy with the deficit for wellness and, having the dividends and the expenses and it's kind of the analogies we use when we talk about wellness. Yeah, so I really, really enjoy that you're sharing that piece. When you look at what's happening in with everything that's going on right now, climate change, like you're just saying in California, the lightnings, the fire, the dryness, like things aren't aligned anymore. The world is shifting. What do you think is one thing that employers can look at more closely in supporting the wellness of the employees?
Yeah, I mean, that's an incredibly difficult question. I don't think there is one thing you can do. Like, I think all kinds of things that employers have to do. I think and this will be true after the fires died out in California, after we have a vaccine for the
Mm-hmm.
virus, maybe even after we have, and this is a long ways off, but once we have a better handle on global warming, there's this issue that's pervading everything, and that's this massive inequality. It's
Oh,
finding a way to engage folks that are not currently engaged in the economic system that we have, because it is the one we have. It's the one we like to change it a little bit, but short of changing a little bit, we have to engage people in it the way it is.
exactly.
Um,
How
how do
we
we
fix
do
it
that?
together. Yeah.
How do we do that with folks that just feel completely disenfranchised, folks that don't see a path into it?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the question for our age. Like, I would love to have the answer to that, because the person that answers that question, they solve a lot of problems.
Yes.
For me, all we can do is educate, inspire, support, help, empower employees. And if we empower and support employees, that will actually be good for employers as well. So employers have to recognize that if they do good stuff for their people are going to do good stuff for them. If they don't do good stuff for their people are going to suffer, and it's not going to be good for them. It's a two-way street.
It is. It is. You're so correct because in this time, I think we're starting to recognize the disparity. We're starting to recognize how very different it is. We're starting to recognize that privilege doesn't mean privilege everywhere or is even invisible. And other people are completely don't have a mindset of wellness, basic safety. When we look at Maslow hierarchy of needs, basic safety, that's all we need. And some people are not safe. They don't have food to eat. They
That's right.
can't feed their children. I mean, when you think the pandemic is, most of us are thinking with the pandemic, oh, work is upset or clients, but some people cannot afford to feed their children.
Right.
The school has to subsidize that was providing the extra meal for their child per day is they no longer have that. And I think we take a lot for granted. And as employers, I would be going down my roster as like, who in my organization is on that list? And how do we support you? How did we, how do you go to work every day and still have this reality? What can we do to change it? And I think all organizations from all sizes need to start thinking about that and recognizing that your people are, your biggest asset.
And part of that, I think the first step of that is if you have somebody that's on your team or in your employ who has these issues, they have to find a way to report that to you. You,
Make
how
it
can
safe.
you help if
Make it safe.
if there's no avenue for them to communicate that? They've
Yeah.
got to be able to communicate it. So maybe there's, like, you set up somebody in your office who is a point person. Maybe it's an HR person. Maybe it's who you can report. You know, this is what my family's going through. My income's not big enough. My spouse lost their job. I don't have the food on my table to feed my kids. That's what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
So if I show up in a certain way at work, that's maybe why.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not even showing up is differently now with remote work because some people don't have the capacity to work from home because they live in small quarters, there's too many people around, they don't have the ability to. And so you may have employees who want to come back to work, and that may be because of their realities. And I think it's really recognizing the diversity and disparities in our various lives, and what we take for granted is not even in somebody else's scope,
Right. Yeah,
and
we had
making
two.
it safe for people to ask for help. I think it's a big part of that.
Yeah, we had two people in our office. I mean, back so March. I'm in Berkeley, California, so in March everything shut down. I mean, everything. You can't come to work, nothing, right? And so for a while, I have two people that were like, no, no, I'm going to work anyways. So I was like, I can't argue with them. But I had two others that were like, okay, work from home for a bit.
Yeah.
One of them basically woke up in the morning, rolled out of bed, and the bed became their desk because they didn't have space for it anymore. And so fast forward just a little while, her back kind of hurts, not really comfortable. So she's actually going to the office now because she has to. Another young man, not really that young, has a child at home, and so if you have a kid at home, you don't have a space. Like the kid is always wants to be, and now more than ever, the kid needs your attention, and there's nothing else. But the kid doesn't have friends over anymore. So, oh yeah, you got to be aware and got to be open to hearing that people may have some special requests or special needs right now, for sure.
And one of the clients that I'm coaching, so her organization sent her to work with me because she felt that she was suffering racial tension at work. She had asked for a specific time off, and the comment was made by her boss that you're the only one who wants to use this time for that. And it was very much according to her culture. So, not making those kinds of comments, I think leaders have to be very careful to recognize we're very diverse. We see the world differently, we're socialized differently, and our needs are varied. And so, if an employee asks for something that's unusual, don't go out of your way to make them feel that something is wrong with them. So over the past years, everything was come back. Well, you're different. Well, you have a lot of stress, or you have a lot of family issues, and it was like, what are you thinking? What are
Right.
you thinking, right? Just singling people out. It's just so, and it happens so naturally to one who is going through that unconscious bias process, not recognizing that it's not okay to say that.
Right.
It's
Right.
not okay to treat me differently because my needs are different. If there is equity, if there is something in the workplace that we all should have access to, I shouldn't be treated differently. I shouldn't be not given the opportunity to compete because your life is very stressful. Your family has some. Give me the opportunity. Let me choose not to. Let me be the one to say, you know what, I'm gonna pass, or I won't take it. Don't leave me out because you conceive that my circumstances won't allow me to, without discussing it with me, without giving me the opportunity to be able to step into that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, we're learning more and more. I'm learning more and more and more about that, and it's work that we have to keep doing and to recognize those cultural differences for sure.
Absolutely. We can never learn too much about it. I know even for myself, I have learned more about, uh, unconscious biases and systemic racism, and just even within our own group, recognizing maybe that thought is not the right one. Maybe I should question that thought or not believe that. And I think we tend to believe everything our brain tells us. And we just need to be in the habit of questioning that more and saying, uh, what's the truth to that? What's the evidence? And
That's
and that helps us to be safer.
that's I mean that's one of the earmarks or one of the hallmarks of mindfulness is the ability
Yeah,
to stop between the feeling or the emotion that you have and then enacting anything on that feeling or emotion is
yeah,
creating that space for a better decision because I think I would have a much different life right now if I didn't meditate every day. I think my reactionary tendencies would I mean I'd be going crazy, but I meditate every day, so I have a way to defer and slow down and make better choices, and I think that's real
exactly.
important.
And I think we all need to bring those practices in our life. It helps with our spending. It helps with our budgeting or financial planning. Buying that thing because it looks good or feels good for the moment may not be the best thing for us. And so spending more time as we look at financial wellness. So some of the things we teach is, understanding time as a resource, understanding, long range planning, goals. So those are some of the things that are so important. These are life skills that when we don't have them, they impact our life in a very, very uh, difficult way. So I look
Absolutely.
forward to your presentation and to your participation in the summit. So what else can we expect to hear from
Well, I actually hope to I hope to start with dispelling some of those myths we talked about earlier. I
you?
hope to talk about some of those things in the middle that are the things that create happiness, and then I want to actually finish when in the presentation with some very very simple activities, behaviors that people can engage to make the financial part of their wellness easier. And I think there are some very simple things. And there's lots of books and lots of blogs on the topic, so you can
Mm-hmm.
get lots of information, but I think the reality is in almost all areas of our life, there's a knowing doing gap. You've probably heard of the
Mm-hmm.
knowing doing gap. We all know we shouldn't have ice cream every night. We all know we should be saving, but we don't do it. Like we don't do the stuff. And so part of it is getting over that hurdle and
Mm-hmm.
just doing the stuff we know we're supposed to do.
Exactly. Exactly. Making ourselves do it, right?
Right.
And getting at it. Jonathan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us. And we're really looking forward to hearing your presentation at the summit and joining with our guests and our speakers there.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Joyce.
My pleasure.